to their screams. Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dave, joined as always by the other host, Ike. Ike, how the hell are you?
Not too shabby, not too shabby. I think I'm ready to talk some horror movies today.
Yeah, I'm always ready to talk horror movies. Before we dive into it, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. Thank you for joining us and listening to this episode. And wherever you are listening, please subscribe. And if you would, give us a rate and a review on whatever platform you're on. And while you're out there, make sure you hit us up on social media and follow us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, and the Slasher app. All you have to do is look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2 and Screams, all one word, and you will find us. As always, a special thank you to Monica and Kayla for their support, their research, putting up with us, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for all that. And we will issue the first of our spoiler warnings right off the top. We do discuss movies on this podcast, if you haven't figured that out already. And in the process of those discussions, we will spoil plot points, so you have been warned. Hey, Ike, guess what? Have you seen? We got shirts now. How about that?
I did see that.
We do.
Surely
we have
did.
4 designs out there, and if anybody would like to check those out, all they have to do is go to tpublic.com/listen2screams. That is tpublic, T-E-E, like the shirt, .com, and then listen, the number 2 and screams. We have our podcast logo and a couple other cool designs. I think a little something for everybody out there, available in lots of colors, pretty cool things. I'm gonna have to order a couple of our own shirts to have to wear out to conventions and on the streets and what have you. But go check us out. Support this little independent podcast talking spooky stuff because we're out here on the grind and we could use all the help we could get.
Always.
So that's right. So go check it out. This shit ain't free, man. There's a cost for hosting and everything else. So every little dollar helps. So help us out. Buy a shirt. So Ike, what'd you watch this week?
I watched a couple of things. I will say that a lot of my time spent in terms of like extra stuff. I was actually finishing up my playthrough, my first playthrough, I should say, of Resident Evil 4 Remake. That came out probably a week before last. So I finally got around to actually finishing the game. So I spent a lot of time doing that. Otherwise, I actually did a rewatch of Saw, the first Saw movie, which might be important later. Who knows?
Yeah. It's into our theme today.
It does. Additionally, I also watched the movie that we reviewed this week, of course, and I also watched a independent film that we will probably be reviewing next month, so I won't talk too much about it.
Yeah.
And then I think the only other thing that I really watched, I'm pulling up my list because I always have to write down a list, guys. Because here's a fun fact about me: I have the worst memory. So, what was it? Well, now I can't remember. So I'll let you know if I if I remember it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the movie you spoke of, I have not watched it yet, but I do plan to watch it this week. It's called Eat the Rich. It is go check that out. We will be reviewing that at some point. Whether it is on its own, whether it's just a kind of a second movie we review, we are going to watch this movie or review this movie, and you can see it for free. It's on Tubi, so go check it out. I know the creator of this, right? The guy that wrote and directed this, and he's asking people just please go out there and then go on IMDb. He's requesting IMDb and give it a review, give it some feedback. He said good or bad, anything he just wants to know as he develops his craft. So again, it's called Eat the Rich. It's available on Tubi, so go check that out. And everybody might be wondering, hey, why are you dropping this? Why are you talking about this and saying that you're going to squeeze it? Because this film and its creator was it's from Columbus, Indiana, our hometown, where we're from. That's not where we live now, but it is both of our birthplaces and hometowns. So it's got a soft spot in the heart. I mean, I'm all about anything from the old Midwest. So go check it out. And like I said, I'll be reviewing it, watching it sometime before this week's up. And we will be doing a review of that sometime, probably in May. I think we got some holes in May, and I think we're going to do a review of that in May. I watched quite a bit. this week. I have, for whatever reason, it just the urge hit me to do another rewatch of the Halloween films. So I have dove into that, and I've watched through the Curse of Michael Myers so far. The first one through that so far. It's a when you get to those first six films, that is a little bit of a roller coaster ride. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some shake your head kind of scenarios, but all in all, it's fun, man. Halloween is one of my favorite franchises, and just I had the urge just to do a rewatch through, and and again we're going to be talking at length about the Halloween franchise this fall, as this year is the celebration of the 45th anniversary of the original Halloween film, and we're going to do a special franchise episode of that come October. So I'm just kind of gearing up. I always do a rewatch around Halloween, the holiday. So I'm just squeezing in an additional one. But in addition to that, I did watch Basket Case, the film from 1982, which, man, that's a trip. It's a pretty fun film, but man, the effects are a little dated in it. I'd like to see maybe a retake on that because the effects are definitely 1982. And then on Screenbox, what came out, it's the 2022 film Family Dinner, which I've heard a lot about online, and I watched it, and it was a fun film. I really enjoyed it. It was a little predictable for me. I kind of knew maybe where it was going, but it was a fun film, and I highly recommend anybody go check that out on Screenbox. It's called Family Dinner. They've got the exclusive rights to it. It just debuted on their service within the last week or so. Before we get to our game, I do want to throw out there we're kind of trying to develop some fellowship with some other podcasts out there, and doing some what do you call it, a shout for shout or whatever you want to call it, right? Where we give a shout out to some other horror podcasts out there, and maybe they'll do the same for us, just to try to grow the network, try to grow the family a little bit. So before we dive into our content, I just want to give a big shout out and a big hey to the Well Adjusted Horror Podcast. You can look them up on Twitter at Well Horror, WELL Horror, WELL Horror. And they describe themselves as screen caps, trivia, and commentary on your favorite horror movies. So go check them out on Twitter. Go check them out on your favorite podcast platform. Tell them that Listen to the Screams sent you. And let's grow the network. Let's grow the family. Let's make some friends, Ike. I don't like people very much overall, and don't have a lot of friends. But if a fellow lover of horror movies can't be a bad thing. So.
That's right. Welcome to the family, son.
That's right.
You probably don't know that reference. That's from Resident Evil 7. I realize. I realize that, but probably went over your head a little bit. No. Yeah. No offense.
Little vague, but that's okay. But so let's shift gears here though, and let's get to one of the funner portions of our episodes. Let's jump in and play Top 3. Top 3. All right, on this episode, I guess, again, I keep forgetting to mention up top, today we are reviewing the movie Cube. It is from 2021, is the Japanese remake of the 1997 movie. That's what we're reviewing in the main event today. So we thought for the top 3 that we would talk about our top 3 escape-based horror movies, or escape-based movies, so to speak. And man, I'll tell you what, when I dove into this was a lot harder than I anticipated it was going to be. I mean, because obviously to me, when you think along these lines, the first thing that pops into mind are the Saw movies, but I'm like, yeah. I don't want to just have 3 Saw movies. And it was difficult. It was really difficult for me. These aren't what I would call one of my favorite type of movies per se, right? If they're done right, they're really good. But it's not one of those that I'm like, oh, there's another, whatever escape type movie that I got to see that thing. So it was a little difficult for me, and I don't know. I think I may have went a little vague with the description, but oh well. It's our show. We can do what we want.
That's right.
So I'm going to start. And my number 3 favorite escape type horror movie. It's not really a horror movie, I don't think. It's more of a thriller, but it is tense and it is scary to me. It is from 2002. It is Panic Room with Jodie Foster and everything else. And I think Kristen Stewart's in it. Again, not really horror per se, but it is a very tense movie, a very fun movie, very well done movie, and it's the whole ideal of being in the panic room, and there's someone that breaks into their home, and what they're looking for to steal is in that panic room as well. So that's what they're trying to get into. It kind of plays on my borderline claustrophobia. It just plays up on all my fears. It's a tense movie. Again, by true definition, probably not a horror movie, but it is a thriller. That kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit. Like, what do you think of the movie Panic Room?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Panic Room. You said that, and like I had like this really vivid memory of watching this movie. Um, it was at my grandma and grandfather's house, the one that was in Columbus, the one that was over by the Taco Bell. I think that you probably remember that one.
Uh-huh.
And I remember we watched this movie. I was like an early teen, like 14 or 15, and we all watched this movie for some reason. I don't know why. But we were there and we watched it. I don't know exactly the context. I just remember I watched it at her house. But that's my first my first thought is like this really weird memory. But absolutely, Panic Room. I feel like first and foremost, it's a really great movie. It's an underrated movie. One of David Fincher's great, good movies. Obviously, David Fincher makes lots of great movies. But like you said, as Jodie Foster, Kristen Stewart, and I believe Forrest Whitaker and Jared Leto, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Now Jared Leto's a little more, on the nose. I know he's not so great of a person these days, but in any case, the genre of like home invasion movies, I do think belong in the horror genre in some regard. One of the movies on my list is actually sort of in that same vein. And I think it's an underrated subgenre of like horror because home invasion is probably like, I would say 99% of people's worst nightmare, right? You have somebody breaks into your home, and not only are they breaking into your home, but they're breaking into your home with a purpose, and they will get what they want at all cost, including you and the people that you're with. So I think that that's something we don't see a whole lot in horror anymore. But I would love to see some more modern adaptations of like that, intruder genre. I think it's very underrated.
Agreed. Again, like I said, depends on your definition, but to me, a very suspenseful thriller movie that really kind of puts you on your edge of the seat, builds a lot of tension, and there's a clear-cut pursuer and pursuee. I mean, to me, that is horror, right? It just doesn't have to have the gore, it doesn't have to have what have you, whatever people's definition is. But to me, it fits. It fits the mold. So, moving on, Ike, what is your number 3 favorite escape horror movie?
So this one, it's not that I'm embarrassed to say that it's one of my favorite, but it's definitely not one of the best movies that I've ever seen. But it's from 2019. It's the Escape Room movie.
Yeah.
There were a lot of movies called Escape Room, as I found. When escape rooms kind of became really popular from like 2017 to like 2020, they pumped out a lot of escape room-esque movies. And I've seen quite a few of them. And this one's actually a PG-13 horror movie, which I'm also I'm always hesitant around PG-13 horror movies, just because when you slap PG-13 on a horror movie, you automatically know that it's not going to be as bloody and as gory as you could with an R-rated movie. And the reason that they do this is because PG-13 movies have a broader audience. They can get younger people to watch it who can't go to rated R movies. But when this movie came out, I was very skeptical, but I liked the concept. I thought, a killer escape room. I mean, that's a great idea. So you watch it, and it's great. It's exciting. It's very thrilling. The sequel's actually really good too. As far as sequels go with these kinds of movies, it was pretty solid. I really, really enjoyed the sequel. But the original, in a lot of ways, it has a lot of very revolutionary concepts, and it also really drives I love escape rooms, but like, what if I went to an escape room and it's not an escape room? You know what I mean? So yeah, I love it. Have you ever seen this one?
I have, yeah, and it's all right. It's not bad. I don't think it's a great movie. I don't think it's a movie that you have to be embarrassed to like. But
well, not embarrassed. But it is one of those movies where you're like, this isn't like a fantastic movie. It's just a fun movie.
And it does get panned a lot for whatever reason. It's one of those movies that I don't know. I have seen people beat up on it. And I don't put any stock in that shit, right? I really don't, because perfect example, non-horror related, right? And I didn't mean to bring this up top, but I know you and I both went and saw the Mario Brothers movie, right?
Oh my god, so
Which,
good.
whatever reason, the fucking critics are panning this thing, And I'm like watching this movie. I'm like, what the fuck do the critics want? I'm like, I don't know what they could have done more in the movie. It was such a fun movie, and it had so much in it. And so I put zero stock in critics. I really do, because and I know that might be ironic for a guy that's part of a movie review podcast, but I don't bill us as critics. I don't think we're critics.
Right.
I think we are fans with opinions. And but because here's the thing, whatever, being a critic or whatever, it's just opinion, right? You're just telling your opinion on the movie. But anyway, yeah, I got sidetracked there. But yeah, Escape Room's okay. I don't think I have seen the sequel. But yeah, it's a fun movie. Definitely, fits the bill to what we're talking about here.
It does.
I mean, to a T.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, when escape rooms become popular, there's all these movies come out. Horror does that with everything, right? Anything that becomes popular, there's just a slew. People are into sharks right now. We're going to make 5,000 movies about sharks and shark hybrids and whatever else. I mean, it's cocaine. There's a cocaine bear movie. Let's put cocaine in every animal imaginable and make a horror movie about it. I mean, they will definitely cash in on whatever's popular. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, whatever, but sometimes the results aren't the greatest. But
That's right.
But moving on, my number 2 favorite escape type horror movie from 2016, it's Don't Breathe. And man, this movie to me put chills in my because they're in this home of this guy who's blind. I haven't seen this movie in a while, but he's blind. So the whole premise is, they're trying to steal from this guy, and they're thinking it's right. It's an easy, right? It's a layup, right? The guy's blind. We can get in, get what we want, and get out, and he'll never know the difference. But the guy obviously has some highly tuned senses and has rigged up some defense measures in his home. And the film is very suspenseful. And this is the kind of film that really makes me kind of lean forward and sit on the edge of my seat and anticipate what's happening next, and makes me, kind of stressed out and tense a little bit. And to me, we're talking an escape type horror movie. That's the goal, right? That is the goal, is to build tension. That's the whole point, or else, there's no, who cares about the escape if there's not a tension there. So Ike, what do you think of Don't Breathe?
Absolutely. I do really like Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe is honestly probably one of the, I think this one's definitely underappreciated, because there is a pretty expansive genre, and like I said, I think that the home intruder genre is entirely underutilized in modern horror. But this one, it basically turned it on its head, because you think, okay, this is going to be a home intruder movie. Well, no, this is well, I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me kind of movie.
Right.
And in this movie perfectly depicts what I would say is a perfect spin on that tale. And it is a tale of depravity, and it is a tale of insanity. And the guy who plays the kind of the villain in this, it's a perfect story of, like, this guy lost everything, and he did something horrible, and then you're like, and it's also kind of introduces this sort of moral conundrum, because you're like, do I side with the home intruders, or do I side with the guy that's protecting his home? Right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I personally, by the end of this movie, I was like, yeah, okay, the home intruders, not to say that they were right to intrude this person's home, but at this juncture, if they have the moral high ground, they need to kill this guy, they need to cap his ass, and they need to get the hell out of there.
Absolutely. Again, it's a fun movie. One I haven't seen again for a while, and it's one of those I think I'm gonna have to rewatch here pretty soon. That brings us to your number 2 favorite escape horror movie. Ike, what you got?
So my number 2, it's actually 2 movies, but the reason I have 2 movies as my number 2 is because they're basically the same movie. But it's the movie The Collector and The Collection.
Oh yeah.
I firmly believe that you need to watch both of these movies,
because so underrated.
It really is, absolutely. If you don't watch both of these, I just think that you're really missing out on the long con. But Josh Stewart is sort of like the main kind of protagonist of this movie. And honestly, I feel like this kind of gives sort of the the walking. I'm trying to think of the word for it. Sort of this movie walked so Don't Breathe could run type thing, because this is sort of a similar concept. It's a group of burglars who break into a house, and when they break into this house, they realize, oh shit, why are the residents tied up and gagged and being tortured? And they realize that there is a serial killer that's in the house that they broke into, and now they have to basically fight for their lives, save the people in the house, even though that they were committing a crime. They kind of flip and they're like, well, even though we were doing something wrong, we need to now basically correct our actions by saving these people type thing. But The Collector is that first movie. The Collection is the second movie, the sequel. And The Collection, in my opinion, it's like both of them are good, and I can never tell which one is better in my opinion, because they're both so good. And like you said, they're super underrated. I never hear people talk about them enough. But like you said, it's got that home intruder genre, the serial killer slasher genre, that Saw trap genre, and it's just all put together, and it is delicious.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, you're right. No one talks about these movies. It's odd. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if people don't like it. They don't enjoy it. If just the marketing, I don't know. It's a conundrum. But yeah, great movies. I enjoy those a lot. So that brings us to our number ones. And probably no surprise here that my number one from 2004 is the very original Saw. This, to me, I like the Saw franchise, right? But there are some in there that are a little more difficult than the others. But man, the original was groundbreaking. It was something that when you watched it, I mean, it was one of those kind of movies that when you first see it, it blew your mind. It's just you didn't anticipate what was coming with this movie. The concept, the delivery, some of the twists that were in it, the ending. There's so much to this movie that when you first see it, just knocks you out. I mean, it really was. I mean, to me, it was a groundbreaking film. And this kind of shit is scary as hell. The concept of someone doing something like this, or being that person that's caught in these situations, man, it's a trip. It's just wild. And I know you love the Saw movies. You're talking about rewatching, which means I'm assuming that you just here recently this week, re-partook in the original Saw movie. What do you think?
Absolutely. So Saw was also my number one. So the movie Saw, in my opinion, is one of the most perfect horror movies of all time, because this movie has. When I first watched this movie, and obviously spoilers, if you've never seen the Saw movie, probably stop listening to the movie now, because one of the best scenes in any horror movie of all time, and I sincerely mean this, is when Tobin Bell's character, which ends up being John Kramer, who is Jigsaw, he stands up off the floor because you think he's a dead body the entire time, and this recording is playing, and he's basically explaining what he did and everything else, and then he gets to the door and he's like, "Game over," and slams the door. Like, that is one of the most bone-chilling moments in any horror movie that I have ever seen in my life. I mean, not only is that such an epic way to close out this horror movie, you have this music that's playing in the background that's like, amping you up. It's getting your heart rate elevated. And not only that, you're coming to like this very sordid conclusion that not only did they fail to escape this trap, this guy is now going to die in this room by himself in the dark of starvation or dehydration, whatever takes him first. And it's just like this very like chilling moment. And the movie's so great. It has so many great actors. I mean, literally just so many great people. I mean, it has Carrie Ells, who is so amazing. Danny Glover. I mean, it's a beautiful movie. If I could go back in time and if I could go back to the first time I watched it, I would. Or if I could watch it again like the first time, I would. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, later this year we have Saw 10 coming out. That's a big franchise. That's a lot of movies. And again, I mean, to me, there's been some wins. There's been some not so wins. I mean, there's up and down. But when you go that long, I mean, you've got to try a few things, and sometimes it doesn't always work. But like you said, man, this first movie, and again, you, a lot of it is context, right? It is the feeling the first time you watch this movie of it literally is, it's kind of mind blowing, and it's got some swerves and curves in there that you just don't expect, like you said, and that's part of it. It's that feeling of nostalgia that of what and again you can't recapture that each time you watch it, but you remember, right? You remember what it felt like that first time, and it's wild. And there's to me there's just handfuls of movies that do that really just really kind of I don't know I don't describe it, just really knock you for a loop when you watch it and really catch you off guard for what you're not expecting. And I mean this is definitely one of them. So there you go, the consensus number one. I kind of had a feeling maybe that's what that might happen. I mean it's like again like I said when you talk escape horror movies it's hard not to just dive deep into that Saw franchise. So I'm not surprised that we both had the first one as number one. So there you have it. That's our top 3 escape horror movies. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss news and upcoming releases. Remember, in the course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned.
And we are back, and we have some news and upcoming releases. So, starting with the news. What's that song? Give me the news. So for toys and merch, we have Funko.com. Obviously, Funko is great. Funko Pops are amazing. But we're getting Killer Clowns from Outer Space. These are Pop VHS covers, Rudy exclusive, whatever the hell that means. And these are going to be unique, collectible. Comes in prepackaged in a protective case that can be hung on your wall or displayed with your VHS tapes. It's going to be a price point of $30.
Yeah.
I know you like Killer Clowns.
I love Killer Clowns. Rudy's one of the clowns, by the way. That's what that means. And I'm not sure what the VHS covers. I need to look into these to see what those are. I'm assuming, like I said, it's I've seen the Funkos with the albums, for bands and things. So I'm assuming it's similar to that, where it's got a VHS cover with the pop, and it's in a kind of like a display case. Like I said, Rudy's one of the clowns, so that's who is featured in the Funko. I do love Killer Clowns. Just like I said, recently rewatched Killer Clowns. I watch Killer Clowns several times a year. I love the movie. It's so cheesy. It's so fun. I actually do not have any Killer Clown Funko Pops. So who knows? Maybe this will be where I start that collection. So
must be. It must be the first. But awesome. Yeah, I might check that out too. I do like Killer Clowns. It's very obviously a great movie. But I love that aesthetic, like that kind of like weird like pastel aesthetic that they have.
Yeah, I mean, and the clown characters they lend themselves to like a Funko Pop so well. I mean, it just works. I mean, so well.
Oh, absolutely. So we also have some key birthdays. We have Sarah Michelle Gellar, who is the 14th there, from Scream 2, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, as well as the Grudge 1 and 2. I really like the Grudge movies.
And Buffy.
Yeah, and Buffy. No, go right ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we didn't put Buffy on the list. How do we not put Buffy on the list? I mean,
that's
she
true.
She is Buffy.
She definitely is. Man, it's been a long time since I've watched Buffy. That might be on a list somewhere for a rewatch here soon.
She's also
Lord.
Daphne.
She is Daphne. Oh, the live action Scooby-Doo movies, while they're not horror movies, they kind of lend themselves to sort of like that like preemptive horror genre because they're like mysteries, they're monsters. Yeah. Oh man, that's such a good movie. I love the live action ones.
First one's such a great cast.
It really is. Literally so amazing. Matthew Lillard, oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyways, on the 17th, we also have Rowdy Roddy Piper from They Live and Hell Comes to Frogtown. Obviously, if you don't know, Rowdy Roddy was a professional wrestler, did some movies, of course, as they all do at some point or another. Just happened to be that Rowdy did a pretty good horror movie. I think They Live. It's pretty excellent.
Yeah, love that movie. Such a great movie. It's also in one of my favorite non-horror cheesy 80 movie of all time. He was in a wrestling movie called Body Slam. That is just absolutely spectacular. Such a great movie. So much nostalgia when I was a kid. It's not a great movie. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's fun for me. So good. But rest in peace, Rowdy.
That's right. And speaking of some anniversary release dates and dates of that nature, we have on the 13th the anniversary of Friday the 13th, the final chapter. So it was final chapter. Was that number 4 with the Corey Feldman?
Yeah, I believe so.
That sounds right. That's one of my favorite ones. On the 15th, we have Scream 4 from 2011. Obviously, Dave and I talked about our Scream rankings. Scream 4 was not exactly at the top of our list, but it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not a bad one. There are worse, I think.
Yes, clearly there were in our rankings. If you look at our rankings, there was, yes.
That's right. You guys got to go watch our rankings. And then we have on the 17th we have Summer Camp Nightmare from 1987, and I've actually never seen that, so I'm sure you have, Dave.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I've seen it. It's just your atypical cheesy 80s slasher type horror movie. I mean,
your copy and paste of Halloween.
Yeah, nothing groundbreaking there. I mean, it's taking place in a summer camp, so I mean, they're like, oh hey, Jason did it, hey, we can do it too. But yeah.
Oh Lord.
Still fun though, so check it out.
Of course, yeah, all those 80s movies are always still fun, even if they are copy and paste. They're still a lot of fun, some differences here and there, of course. And we do unfortunately have an in memoriam. On the 8th, we lost Michael Lerner, who was in Tales from the Crypt, The Omen 4, and upon looking him up, I do recognize him, but I recognize him from Elf, weirdly enough.
Yeah, I mean, he was in lots of things. These are just kind of some of the horror specific type deals, but yeah, I mean, he's kind of a character actor, did lots of things, and he passed away. So
Absolutely, aged 81, so definitely had a long life, long career. So, may he rest in peace, of course. In some other news, we also have Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, now available on video on demand on Amazon Prime. This one was one of those movies that we tried to watch, but we couldn't quite catch it.
Oh.
So maybe next month when we have a gap, maybe we can.
I mean, it gets knocked a lot, right? I see it online. A lot of people hate it, but I'm like, I don't. You know what? It sounds cheesy enough that I want to watch this. I really want to watch this thing. But yeah, it is. It's right now it's exclusive to Amazon Prime, so it'll have to be rented or bought that way. But who knows what will happen in the future? But yeah, maybe we'll do a review on that when we have some holes in the future.
We shall see. We also have Stranger Things animated. It has been in development for Netflix. Is going to be released after the final season of Stranger Things. For those who don't know, I think that we're on season 4. There will be a 5th season, so this will come after the 5th season. And as a side note, congratulations to Millie Bobby Brown, who is engaged to Jake Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi. That's John Bon Jovi's son.
Such a weird connection. I actually didn't know that Bon Jovi had children to begin with, so that's interesting.
What would it be like to go to a family holiday and there's John Bon Jovi, carving the turkey? I mean, come on.
Right.
How cool is that?
Lord. I'm sure that'd be amazing. Oh Lord. But anyways, we also have some news that American Horror Story season 12 is obviously in production. I think American Horror Story is going to be one of those reoccurring things that we see for years to come. But we do have some news that we have a couple of additions to this season. We have Emma Roberts, and an interesting addition is Kim Kardashian. I've never really seen her act, I don't think.
I don't think she really does. Well, I mean, if you want to call her, I mean, her reality shows was fake as hell. So, I mean, there you go. But I do not like the Kardashians, right? But here's my thing. Sometimes when you take someone that I really don't like and you put them in a different setting like this, it sometimes works. And it sometimes, it's just the same concept of sometimes the nicest guys in Hollywood that play these great, iconic, fun characters, they make the best villains in movies and TV. And so I'm curious to see, because, again, I don't like Kim Kardashian. I don't suspect she's going to have a major role, per se. But, again, sometimes when you take someone out of context and put them in something like this, sometimes it clicks, and you can capture a little magic there.
Absolutely. No, and I agree. Definitely sometimes you get kind of those surprising, wow, they weren't that bad, were they? So I will withhold judgment until we actually get to see that season. I've actually not watched the most recent season yet, so I still need to watch that. But In any case, we do have some upcoming releases. Of course, we have The Pope's Exorcist, April 14th in theaters. This is inspired by actual files, of Father Gabriel Amorth, the chief exorcist of the Vatican. The Pope's Exorcist follows Amorth as he investigates a young boy's terrifying possession and ends up uncovering a centuries-old conspiracy the Vatican has desperately tried to keep secret. It is starring Russell Crowe, as well as many other folks, of course. I'm actually kind of excited for this movie. I think I won't be able to go watch it in theaters just because there's so much stuff that I want to watch that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
But I definitely will catch this on streaming as soon as it is streaming. That's for sure.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that was definitely in the running for us to do a review on. But again, April has been so jam packed. It's like, well, kind of something had to give. But it's definitely something that I'll watch when it comes to streaming. And even if we don't do a full review, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit here on the show.
Absolutely. We also have what we're going to be reviewing, I believe, next week, which is Renfield, which comes out on the 14th as well, in theaters, I should say. In this modern monster tale, that's a tongue twister, of Dracula's loyal servant, the tortured aide to history's most narcissistic boss, Dracula. Renfield is forced to procure his master's prey and to do his every bidding. No matter how debased, that's such a weird word. But now, after centuries of servitude, Renfield is ready to see if there's a life outside the shadow of the Prince of Darkness. If only he can figure out a way to end this codependency. Now, obviously, I'm super excited for Renfield. I've got my wife on board. She's kind of excited now too. She thinks it's going to be cool. But we have Nicholas Hoult, we have Nicolas Cage, we have Awkwafina, the living legend Awkwafina, and of course Ben Schwartz, who
it's funny.
He literally voices Sonic the Hedgehog first and foremost.
Yeah.
But he's also John Ralphio in Parks and Recreation. I'm just like,
he like essentially plays the same character in almost everything he's in, pretty much, and he's so funny. But yeah, I'm super stoked. I mean, I like Nicolas Cage, and man, any take on Universal and Dracula, whatever, I'm there. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch this.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I'm almost positive Dave will be excited because it is Dracula.
Yeah, I am super excited. And we'll talk all about this and review it next episode. But yeah, I'm stoked. Can't wait. I'll be going to watch it this coming weekend.
That's right. Holla. All right. We also have two more movies that are actually on demand as we speak. Well, soon, not as we speak. I take that back. Nefarious is April 14th. Will be on Peacock and on demand. So of course, Peacock, it's a streaming service. Subscribe to it. It's actually, I like Peacock personally. But on the day of the scheduled execution, a convicted serial killer gets a psychiatric evaluation during which he claims he is a demon, and further claims that before their time is over, the psychiatrist will commit 3 murders of his own. This is starring Sean Patrick Flannery from Saw 3D and Jordan Belfry from Don't Look at the Demon. I've never heard of this, but I will probably watch this. It seems up my alley.
Yeah, sounds fun. I mean, I think it was last episode we spoke. Hey, throw a demon possession in there. I'm good. I'll watch that thing. And this sounds fun. Sounds kind of a unique take on it, and we'll see. I'm down.
That's right. Throw a demon possession in there. We're good. And then we also have, speaking of bears, Night of the Killer Bears, available on Vudu.
There we go. Talking about when something's popular. Here we go.
That's right. After not seeing each other for a very long time, 5 teenage friends living in the city of Bangkok go on a vacation together, staying at a quiet resort isolated from the city. Things take a dark turn when it's revealed each of them has hidden secrets, and unbeknownst to the group, there is someone observing them. When one of them ends up brutally murdered, paranoia and distrust surrounds the group, motivating each remaining member to accuse each other of being the murderer or considering the possibility that the real murderer is the unseen presence observing them, and that they are all in danger. I did not hear anything about bears.
So maybe I'll take that back. Maybe bears is metaphorical here or something for some reason. I don't know. Unless what's observing them is a bear. But I don't know. I heard no mention of wildlife there, so I take back what I said before. Perhaps this is not just a
cash in on the Cocaine Bear
success. Cash in on Cocaine Bear. I apologize. The Night of the Killer Bears.
I apologize. And then also, if you guys are wanting something else, you're just like, man, I need something. I need another hit until I can see Renfield. Check out on Netflix. I've actually seen this movie. This is the movie I forgot to say that I watched. Funnily enough, so in 2019, a movie called I See You came out, but it has been trending because it is on Netflix now. But this is a movie that starts as a search for a missing child that finds a malicious presence at its heart. It's actually more of a thriller. I would definitely put it more towards the thriller category than like a horror movie. But this movie is actually really good. So if you need something to hold you over, check out I See You on Netflix. Have you happened to watch this, Dave?
No, I have not. I'll check it out. Sounds fun. But yeah, don't forget, like we have breaking news about HBO Max and
Oh my
Discovery
God.
Plus.
How could I forget? Oh
I
my
hear
God.
I hear the little ticker tape noise, going off in the background. So
That's right. Doo, 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 doo. So we've actually been hearing this for, I would say, about a year now. I remember hearing about this in 2022, and I think that they had intended to launch this before now, but I think they're finally getting around to it, and I'm actually pretty excited. So HBO Max and Discovery Plus are merging to form one app called Max. This will launch on May 23rd. Now, obviously, this is of interest because there will be some development on a new series set in the Conjuring universe. And as most people know, the Discovery Plus platform does a lot of paranormal stuff. They actually did a little biopic of Ed and Lorraine Warren when the latest Conjuring movie came out. And then, of course, HBO Max is the home of all of the Conjuring franchise for the most part. So I think this will be a pretty good, merge. I'm pretty excited how, going from
yeah,
two apps down to one.
yeah, and when they had the deal that made the announcement here recently, I mean they've talked. There's just been a slew of announcements about this. They're developing this and developing that, and there's just all kinds of cool stuff coming for different people and whatever else. But the kind of the one that hits on our topic here in horror was that they're saying that they're going to be a series set in the Conjuring universe. Now we don't know what that means. I don't foresee that it'll be about the Warrens maybe specifically. That it'll be kind of
Right.
adjacent, but you never know. I mean, they I'm sure they'll tie into it. So it'll be fun. I'm all about let's get some. I mean, we've got a new Conjuring movie is supposed to be coming out and everything else. I mean, that universe is just growing like crazy. So it's fun. I'm all about we talked about this recently that horror needs to dive into the series more and
Yep.
start doing some of these series. And here we go. This is an example. Let's see what happens, and hopefully it does well and opens up some production company eyes.
Absolutely. But I think that pretty much wraps it up for news and upcoming releases. So no more news for you. However, after the break, we are going to jump into our review of Cube from 2021.
Listen to Their Screams is now a Fangoria collaborator. Get 20% off your order at shop.fangoria.com by using the promo code LISTEN2SCREAMS at checkout. That is listen, the number 2, and screams. Or you can click the link in the show notes. All right, and we're back here on Listen to Their Screams, and it is review time. And we are going to discuss Cube from 2021, a remake of a 1997 movie that has a strong cult following. This movie is available on video on demand and also on Screenbox, a platform that we love and support here. You can check it out there. It is a group of strangers wake in a mysterious room inscribed with an unfamiliar code. Looking for ways to escape, they discover the room is riddled with lethal traps, and as fear and distress swirl around them, the group must work together to survive. Now, in the essence of clarity here, I have not seen the original 1997 movie. Like, have you seen it?
So I have, but it's been a super long time, and I'm so sorry I have to say it. In the original, there's an actor, Julian Richings, who is a Supernatural alum, who plays
Oh.
Death in the Supernatural
Oh,
movies.
yeah. Oh, he's great. Yeah, he's
Sorry, that was my little tidbit. We have to always mention Supernatural alum.
hell yeah, we
So
do.
I have seen the 1997 Cube. However, it has been a super long time, as in probably more than 10 years. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've not, and I do know people say, hey, it's kind of underrated. It's it's a fun movie, or whatever else, but I've not seen it. I did see some early reviews and stuff on Cube, and one of them I read, they stated that the Japanese take was a slight improvement on the original. I'm here to call bullshit on that because I don't see how. To be frank, I didn't really enjoy the remake, and I apologize to Screenbox. I apologize to those that made it. And let me tell you why. The movie was shot great, right? The acting was fine, but the movie just moved so slow for me. It didn't feel like the tension built that you would anticipate in a movie where they're captured in these rooms and going from room to room and trying to avoid these traps. I just felt like it really had too many down periods in between where that tension wore off, and then it just didn't build up to it didn't build up to the next level well enough. And on the same token, it didn't have a rhythm, right? The characters didn't develop. I wasn't invested. I didn't really care if anybody died because I didn't have any investment in these characters. I mean, when I was a kid who was like 13, there was that part where he's like, oh, don't kill the kid, just because he's a kid. But I don't know. The movie was just a little plodding for me. It didn't really develop the way that I would hope a movie like this, for being this escape-based, captured type movie, the amount of tension it should build. It just, I mean, yeah, some of the traps were kind of cool, and there were, I think, lasers and the different things and the saw blades or the saw wire, or what do you want to call it? What you want to call it? That razor that was sound activated when there was a loud noise. And I don't know, but I don't know. It just didn't. It kind of drug for me. Like, what you think?
Yeah. So I'm a huge proponent of foreign films, especially foreign horror movies. I've watched so many that are so good. And when I was watching this movie, there were some positives. Like Dave said, the traps and some of the creative elements were actually really great. Some of the traps were interesting. They were, triggered in interesting fashions. And the movie opened up, I would say, in a really great way. It opens up with this guy just getting impaled with like a hollowed out square like bar type thing, and it just like cuts out a chunk of him. And quite frankly, it started out, and I was like, wow, this is going to be great. And then it kind of slowed down from there significantly, because I think the biggest thing for me is that I found the characters likable enough. There were and then there were some characters that I was like, wow, okay, they give you a little bit of background. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But like Dave said, there really wasn't much drive for me to care about these characters. I think the only characters that I really cared about, there was the one guy who kind of was like leading the pack, and he kind of died about midway through the movie, and that was kind of upsetting. But outside of him, I mean, none of the other characters did I really connect with in any way, just because they all kind of seemed like generic cookie cutter characters. Nothing too particularly, great about them. But not only that, I think that for a movie that is, like you said, supposed to sort of rely on the concept of you need to escape this room before you die, there really wasn't much tension. There really wasn't any like close calls. There really wasn't anybody like dying. Like from the main group, if I remember correctly, the only person that really died directly from a trap because of like an accident type thing was the guy who got shot with a laser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The rest of them, they either died by other people's hands or they died in other circumstances that were just kind of unfortunate. So there really wasn't like those high stakes. Like in Saw, you have the high stakes. These two people, they give you these detailed, very explicit descriptions of their lives. You know what I mean? You know that one of them's a doctor. You know their family. You've seen their wife and children. You know that they have a kid at home. You know what I mean? And so you have these very deep connections to these people and their stories. And I feel like you kind of need that in these movies, like these movies like Cube, especially the movie where realistically the scenery is not changing. You know what I mean? You can't rely on scenery-based narrative. So you really have to rely on the storytelling of the people, and there just wasn't enough of that. And like Dave said, great kills, great effects in some places, some cool traps. It was nifty looking. It just, the story was greatly lacking in a lot of ways, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was. And I feel like it could have helped maybe if they had just cut off a couple of characters, right? It's like they had so many characters.
Right.
And when you did find out a little backstory on them, you really didn't like them. You're like, this is, they're kind of dicks. So you didn't, they got killed. You're kind of like, okay. And, I mean, even the one guy who the kid had kind of had bonded with, when you found out that, I don't know, he kind of didn't prevent his brother from committing suicide. I've kind of like, man, he's kind of a jerk too. And I know it's like they were trying to redeem a little bit. I just don't feel like it was effective. I don't feel like, I don't know. At the end, I know they tried the redemption of him, and I don't know, it didn't work for me too much. It just didn't. I kind of felt like, oh, well, okay, you kind of got what I mean.
Oh well,
You had it coming. I mean, I don't know. And then uh, and then two things that kind of jumped missed it all. I kind of like. I guess the kid was there in the effort for the guy to redeem himself, because I'm like, why else is this kid here? And then I got pretty deep into the movie, and I kind of realized, they're not really talking about this girl at all. They're not really giving anything about her. I think she's got a hand in this thing, and she did. And it's just, I don't know. It was so weird. I don't know. It was just, it was a little slow for me. And not, I don't know, not, I mean, I've watched a lot of movies on Screenbox lately, and I've enjoyed pretty much all of them. And again, some of them have been foreign films. Family Dinner was a foreign film that I really, really enjoyed. And this one, it didn't have it for me. And, and when it's a foreign film and you have to kind of pay attention to those subtitles, I feel like they kind of need to be a notch above, even, because they've really got your attention, right? Because you can't kind of look away and just hear the dialogue and kind of keep up on it, right? You have to kind of really pay attention and watch, closely. And I don't know, they just didn't hold my interest. And and again, I know it was only like an hour and 43 minutes, and that's not horribly bad. But for the development, as slow as the development was, I'm like, man, this is it's taken a while. If they had, I don't know, it needed something. It needed something in there, and to kind of kick it up for me. And that didn't have it. So I was a little disappointed, right? I was kind of looking forward to it. I really liked the concept of it, and it didn't. I don't know. It didn't deliver. It kind of let me down a little.
yeah, I was waiting for you to be like, man, this movie was too damn long.
Yeah, and again, it's not. It's not that that's not a horribly long movie, but
Right.
when it's this slow moving, it felt like it was 3 hours to me. It didn't. There wasn't enough meat there for an hour and 45-minute movie for me. Again, I felt maybe if they had trimmed a character or two, cut a little bit of the lull out a little bit, got it down to an hour and a half, I don't know if it would have saved the movie, but maybe I wouldn't have felt like I needed to be trapped in a cube myself to avoid watching this thing. But I don't know. Again, it kind of let me down. A little disappointed because again, the concept was there, and it was visually was a great movie. It looked really, it looked great. The cube looked great. All the effects looked great. Everything was spot on. Just not the story to me, not the development. That
Yeah,
didn't live up to the rest of it.
I agree. I definitely think there could be more. There could have been more, and
It could,
maybe they'll make another remake. Who knows? Maybe in a couple of years we'll get another one.
perhaps. And I think part of it, I mean, again, though, I mean, again, like we said earlier, this is such a jam-packed month, and I feel like you really got to knock it out of the park to stand out, right? Because we watched Body Farm, which for an independent film was very fun, and we've got Renfield coming up, and Evil Dead Rise coming up, and
Right.
even when we talk about the Exorcist movie that we were that was coming up, and there's all these movies in here in April. And and again, I like I said, I enjoyed Family Dinner that just came out on Screenbox. The Living with Chucky documentary is now officially out, which was a fun. I know it's not a horror movie, but it's still a fun, taking the chapter in the horror genre. There's all these things that you've really gotta nail it to stand out right now, because there's so much good content out there. And I don't know. I just felt like Cube missed. And didn't hit it out of the park. I felt like they struck out looking, and not even swinging, just looking. They took all three. I'm getting the baseball metaphors in there, right? Because Like but maybe the listeners do. I'm a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan, so I've got I have the game's not on, but the game day over here, so I glance over every once in a while. So I'm mixing up my metaphors here, but
Close enough.
yeah. Anyway, so let's rate this thing. I'm flat out. I'm just gonna have to call it. To me, this is a 2 out of 5, and that 2 is not. They're not getting 2 screams based on the story to me, though. They're getting the 2 screams based on the concept, the production value, the effects, and again, while the story wasn't there, I think the acting was pretty good. I do think the actors did a fine job in it. I just don't think they had enough content to work with. So for me, this is a 2 screams out of 5 movie.
Absolutely. And I'm not very far off whatsoever. I did a 2.5 screams out of 5. The only reason I gave it 2.5 screams versus a 2 is because I liked the concept. I thought the actors did a superb job, like you said. They all did a very good job with what they were given. Like I said, I thought the concept was cool. Some of the kills were really neat. And it definitely it was a movie. It was just not the best story. And I think that the story is so important, especially with movies like horror movies, because you can't always just skate by with just cool kills and characters. So yeah, 2.5 out of 5 for me.
Well, there you have it. That is Cube. It is available on video on demand and Screenbox. So if you want to give it a watch, go give it a watch. Form your own opinion and to see what you think. But now that we've done that, now with that we've got our palate cleansing done for April. I'm super psyched for the next 2 episodes because, like we said, next week we're discussing Renfield, which I'm super excited for. And then, if I couldn't be any more excited, the next week we're going to discuss Evil Dead Rise, which I'm off the charts excited for. So these next 2 episodes, I'm psyched, and it's going to be fun.
No, I was going to say absolutely. I'm super excited for Renfield, but I am excited, but also a mixture of terrified for Evil Dead.
Yeah, man, the Evil Dead movies I don't know, man, they kind of make your balls rescind a little bit. There's some spooky ass shit. It really is. Like we talked about the demon and stuff, but man, they take it next level with some of this stuff. And I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm saying in that chill your soul kind of way. And based on the trailers alone, man, this one is woohoo. I think this one's going to make the hair stand up, and I cannot wait. And the chances are better than not. I typically go to early showings of movies on the weekend where there's not many people there. So there is a very good chance that I might be sitting in the theater, maybe even perhaps by myself, watching this movie. And yeah, I may piss myself just a little bit. Who knows? But I will enjoy every moment of it. I'm sure. We'll see. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks. So, but again, next week is Renfield, the Dracula take with Nicolas Cage in it. And make sure you go and subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening to us, and follow us on all the social media outlets that we discussed earlier. And Ike, before we close it out and get out of here, anything you want to say before we go?
Stay away from cheese graters. I've watched that Evil Dead Rise trailer too many times, and I'm terrified to see whatever that cheese grater does, man.
Yeah, that alone gives me chills. Just just the thought of it is just getting me. Yeah, let's do it. But we got Renfield first. Let's don't get ahead of ourselves. Renfield first, which I don't think is going to be quite as scary. I think Renfield's going to lean a little heavy into the comedy. We'll see if they lean a little too heavy into the comedy. Hopefully there's some horror there, some scariness, and some whatever to balance it out. So we'll see. We will talk about that next episode. But until then, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.